Good afternoon, everyone. This is a update on the tropics for September 20th, 2022. We have lots of new disturbances continuing to keep you updated with Hurricane Fiona, which is now a major hurricane and is expected to be headed northward towards Bermuda, where it could have potential impacts that we need to watch closely. We have a disturbance in the Caribbean as well that could be going into the Gulf within the next 2 weeks. So let's get right into it here. Here's the satellite imagery. There is Hurricane Fiona currently just east of the Turks and Caicos, bringing some impacts to those Turks and Caicos islands. This is going to be headed northward here throughout the next couple of days towards Bermuda, where it could be bringing impacts. It depends on the track, but according to the National Hurricane Center forecast cone, it comes very close to Bermuda, bringing impacts there. Now, we do have a new disturbance that is currently southeast of the Lesser Antilles, and it will be going through the Caribbean. It has now a high chance of development, a 80% chance of development here within the next 5 days, and this could potentially, we have lots of models that do lead this up into the Gulf with potential tropical storm development within the next week. We do have a new tropical depression currently in the more northern portion, middle of the Atlantic, and this is Tropical Depression 8. So if that does get named, that will be Gaston, or we could see Tropical Storm Gaston from this disturbance. We're not sure, but I think that this might be Gaston if it gets a little more organized, and then we may see our ninth, and then we might see Hermine in the Caribbean later on. It really just depends, but let's go and look at the National Hurricane Center. This is the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. As you can see, there's that disturbance that has an 80% chance of development within the next 5 days. That is in the red, and that's going to be headed through the area of Barbados and the Trinidad and Tobago area. That's much of the southern Lesser Antilles. We'll be seeing thunderstorm activity as that moves through in about a day or so, but no real impacts until that actually develops into a tropical storm. And as you can see, there's Fiona, which we can look at the forecast cone for this. As you can see, we still have active hurricane warnings for the eastern portion of the Turks and Caicos. This will be making a very close approach to Bermuda, where again we could possibly see some of those impacts. But I don't think they're going to be major if this has a more westward track. But ever so slightly, this could change eastward, and we could see some major impacts to Bermuda. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. And then Canada could definitely see a very strong storm headed their way with some powerful winds and such. But we will have to watch here throughout the next week to see what happens. Here is the GFS model here from the 12Z run. There is Tropical Depression 8. There is Hurricane Fiona, which is continuing to strengthen. It currently has winds of 115 miles per hour and minimum central pressure of 959 millibars. So it is actually about this. So it's about 3 p.m. when I'm recording this video, and this is about 7 p.m. according to the GFS model. That's pretty accurate depiction there for the short range. Now this gets even stronger, possibly into a Category 4 hurricane, whopping down to 945 millibars as it approaches Bermuda. Eventually gets down to 938 according to the GFS model as it goes through some of those cooler waters. And as you can see, Canada gets a very strong hurricane or a very strong storm, maybe a post-tropical storm by then as it heads that far north. But definitely Nova Scotia could be seeing, again, a very strong storm just to the east, bringing some of those very strong winds. And there's that other disturbance. As you can see, as we're tracking it at the same time, it is going to be moving northwestward fairly quickly here. Here's the area that we're watching here. And let's pull this GFS model even further. There it is developing into something, as you can see, just west of Lesser Antilles around September 22nd. And then we move even forward even more. We get to around September 23rd. Still kind of possibly even a tropical depression by then. But it will be strengthening in the Caribbean. As you can see, by September 25th, we could possibly see our tropical storm status, and that's when it could be named. As you can see, let me close that out there, and as you can see, it strengthens possibly even into a hurricane as it goes through the Caribbean. It kind of swipes the western portion of Cuba there, and then strengthens into a very, very strong hurricane which that could be very alarming for the Gulf of Mexico. Now, of course, that's just the GFS model, so we have to look at other models to see what their opinion is on this. And let's look at the European model, which does have a very similar track. As you can see, it goes to the Caribbean, it strengthens into a tropical storm, and into the Gulf it goes, it strengthens into a hurricane. Here, according to the European model, definitely a little bit less strong than the GFS model, but that's typically what the European model does. That's still a very strong hurricane, according to the European model. When you look at the CMC model as well, which has quite a weird track with this. We saw a weird track as well with Fiona, so I'm definitely not surprised by this. As you can see, it does have an opinion that this does go through the peninsula of Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, and that does go into more of the southern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. They're strengthened into a possible hurricane as well. But looking at another model here, the Icon model, this doesn't go that far out, around 180 hours out, but it still has a very similar track to both the European model and the GFS model. This is why the National Hurricane Center has noted that this does have a very high chance of development, as it is going to be headed into some prime conditions for a possible Caribbean, even Gulf of Mexico hurricane here in late September. As you can see, looking at the spaghetti models with this, we do have the European model and the GFS model. The European model has this, of course, going into the Gulf, and we have the GFS model also nearing the Gulf, making kind of a northern turn. And as you can see, the majority of that actually does go right through that black line, so you're gonna have to continue to watch this very closely for any possible little changes on the path of this. According to the spaghetti models, I'll keep you updated. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn on post notifications. I will give you the latest video updates on this tropical disturbance and Hurricane Fiona. Be sure to like the video, share this with friends and family, but I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.